Well, Mark, it's been a challenging couple of weeks in terms of COVID cases, isolation rules affecting the squad, and obviously the Wycombe and Doncaster games having to be called off. You've had restrictions re-implemented at the training ground as well. How difficult has it been the last 10 days, 2 weeks or so?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're definitely not alone in that situation. You just see, and I think we'll probably see it this weekend as well. New Year's Day games, they're already starting to drop a little bit. So it's definitely an intense period for rising cases, which is just reflective of the picture across the country. So the hardest bit really is, I think the early cancellation of the games was really helpful for us, knowing we could structure a little bit, supporters could, football clubs can plan a little bit. I got in touch with Gareth Ainsworth a couple of days before when we knew that there was a doubt, just to, because you have to have that little bit of respect that it does throw your schedule up in the air a little bit, and you want people to be able to try and plan. So we've been able to work our way around that, even though numbers have been limited and up and down, and people returning at all different times from isolation. We're not yet up to full strength of everybody back, but we've had some brilliant sessions, and actually it's probably given us an opportunity to train like we haven't been able to for weeks. We've had so many midweek games. We have not had a real flow in training program. So it's been, we've had some brilliant sessions in there. The lads' attitude's been different class, and they've dealt with the fact that we've had 5 or 6 sessions since the last game. And sometimes when you're training without that game in the near future in your mind, it can affect the motivation of sessions a little bit, but it hasn't done it. The boys that have been in have trained really well. So I've been pleased with that. And then the day-to-day restrictions, I mean, it is the worst time of year to not be allowed indoors. It's pretty miserable when we're drinking soup at lunchtime in the rain outside together. So people don't hang around too long. And being honest, it's the complete opposite of the type of environment we want to try and have, where we spend time together, where we sit and eat together, where all the things that I think can really help build a spirit and togetherness, you don't have them. But the one thing I'd say about footballers are pretty resilient, people are pretty resilient. You can just cope with whatever it is, as long as you know what it is. And that's been really helpful for us. We've known where we are a little bit. So that's been helpful to know. And we've become fairly experienced in it after a whole year of last year looking like it was. So not ideal, but at the same time, not exclusive to us. So you just get on with it. And we hope we can get playing again this week and build that momentum back into what will become a really busy January and February now.
Yeah, just intrigued actually in terms of the fact that, I mean, there's been so many games called off, as you say. I think it's 29 of the 44 scheduled games on Boxing Day, and obviously for a lot of clubs there's going to be a bit of a fixture pile up, and there's been calls for potentially the integrity of the league being compromised. Of the football league and their authorities been pretty open in terms of dialogue with all clubs, Mark?
Yeah, you'll never get widespread agreement on this, I don't think. I think the integrity of the competition thing's a really interesting one. If everyone has to play a really, really young team of players that's never played before, then that definitely will question the integrity of the competition in some respects. But then a heavy schedule for some more than others will as well. I think Wimbledon are the ones that have played the least games. Everyone else is pretty much around 22, 23 games. So we'll all be in a very similar boat. At the moment, the last 9 Tuesdays of the season are empty. So we know that we'll have cancellations due to weather, because that always happens in January and February, and COVID doesn't look like it's going to go away anytime in that period. So we expect the end of the season to be fairly busy. The fact that we're finishing a week earlier than all the other leagues might create another problem, because there's potentially 2 games in that final week we could have played that others will be. But I'm not too concerned about it. I think we've shown that we can put games together. Players want to be playing at the back end of the season. You've done all your training in terms of you can't get any fitter. You know what you are as a team, and you just want to tick the games off. So I think we'll be able to get through those periods as well. I think the difference really has been the line that's become very common of the games off because of COVID and injuries. And games have never been allowed to be postponed because of injuries. But the criteria now around available players that fit an experience criteria having played a game allows the tipping point to be, if you've got COVID plus injuries, then that can be the difference. So perhaps on reflection, they'd look at it and say, we should have made this exclusive to COVID cases, and then you'd have to play the other ones anyway. If in a normal period we had 10 players injured, we wouldn't call the game off. You'd have to play your youth team players in the game. So there's probably a tipping point there that has allowed more games to be cancelled than would have been just on COVID alone. But I guess everyone's managing day to day at the minute, and it's a really difficult situation. What I think now is, with the protocols as they are, with the fact that we test every single day, it gives you a chance of avoiding those big cases and spreads throughout the team. And hopefully, as people become a bit more responsible, and who knows what restrictions are coming in the new year, that might just help slow that spread a little bit. And touch wood, the worst of it is going to be behind us once we get over this new year period.
In terms of obviously including those that have tested positive within the squad, Mark, and obviously there's a question mark in terms of, you know, the fact that they have to isolate and then get back up to speed in terms of sharpness. How are you looking for numbers and availability with the other injuries as well for Monday?
Yeah, well, the game will be on from our side as long as we don't have any more positive cases come up between now and then. So we're preparing for the game now. Players are off today, and then we've got a 2-day run into the game on Monday. So that's one that we're really looking forward to. What you have is, you've got players that some have isolated for 7 days, some have isolated for 10, some are still in it. So there's going to be a group that is fairly split. But I went to watch. I was at Ipswich on whatever day it was. I'm lost with days. I watched Ipswich against Wycombe last week. I was sat next to Nicky Cowley from Portsmouth. Watched the game together. They've had similar situations. I think what you'll see in team lineups across the league right now is it's unpredictable. You cannot pick or guess somebody's 11, because you don't know who's been ill, who's been off, who's actually been off because they've had COVID, and who's actually been really ill with it, and what the impact is of that. How many training sessions have certain players had? So some team selections might look a little bit random, but we don't know the inside story quite often of why players are or aren't in the certain team. So I think it creates an unpredictability around certainly our team, because I don't know it yet, so it's impossible for anyone else to. And then the same with the opposition, trying to guess the 11 and where teams will go. So we're plodding along. We've got players dropping in and returning at different points. Will they all be the whole squad back fit, fresh, 100%? No, but we'll put a team on the pitch that we think can compete with Portsmouth and be in the best shape that we can be, knowing that we need to get back into game rhythm as quickly as possible, because we've got a big month ahead.
In terms of personnel, Mark, obviously you expect people to like Greg Taylor to be out. We understand that Lloyd Jones has perhaps gone under the knife over Christmas, and one or two others, Liam O'Neill. Are there any other absentees for Monday?
Lloydie's had a small procedure on his groin, so he'll be a little bit longer than we'd have hoped. But he'll miss this month, and we'll see where he is in February. So we know where he is now anyway. There's a time scale on that a little bit. Greg's been running around, really enjoying being back on the grass and with a football at his feet this week. So he's not into group training yet at all, but he's coming along nicely, and he's made brilliant progress actually, and partly down to the quality of work from the specialists that he's seen, partly down to the brilliant programme and care that Mikey Burrows gives him, and partly down to the fact that he is a top pro and does everything he can to shave every moment off his time. Liam's back in and around training sessions a little bit more. We're hopeful that we can get Wes back up to speed quite soon. And Shiloh's going to be missing until February as well. So we're slowly building ourselves back up from the ones that have been out, but obviously there's a little bit of time between being available. In terms of other ones who are absent, we've obviously got players in all different positions and places at the moment off the back of the COVID situation. So we don't really know who and when they'll be available yet. So in terms of team news for Monday, I haven't really got too much to give at the minute.
One player we've seen over the last couple of days, been recalled from his loan, Leon Davis. What's the situation with him, Mark? Because obviously we know his contract is up at some point this month. I guess he's been down at Weymouth, but he's been playing games, and that was all part of the process.
Yeah, in the end, the month probably turned into a few less games than we'd have hoped and he'd have hoped, because of cancellations and things like that, which is always possible. I think he played 3 while he was there. So we'll just wait and see how. Obviously, that's been fairly productive for him, but his contract, as you say, extends till 31st of December, but not in a position to discuss that one now. I think by the time we next speak, I'll be able to give you some news on that.
There's obviously plenty of challenges on the pitch recently, Mark. I think 6 of the last 7 games for you in the league have been against sides that are either in top form or, you know, up in the top 6, 7 and fighting for promotion. I guess going forward, including Monday, because Portsmouth are on a run at the moment, I think of 10 wins and a draw in the last 12. I guess the challenge for your side now is to turn what have been really good performances into draws and wins.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at we've got 2 cup games in amongst this month, but potentially 3. But you look at Portsmouth, Lincoln, Crewe, Fleetwood, Bolton being sort of the next 5 league games. They're big games for us. We know that, and I think the level that we've hit in the last month has been very good, and we're probably 2, 3, maybe 4 points shy of where we should or could be from that run of games. But I think the most promising thing is the players have gained confidence in a difficult spell, which is actually quite hard to do sometimes. You could see people losing the plot a little bit about the fact that we haven't quite got what we deserve from those games, but players have been great, and I think the performances have been brilliant as well. And the fact that we didn't score a goal and didn't take any points from our last 2 games, Charlton and Rotherham, when we played as well as we have, that the compliments we've got along the way from teams is a boost to our confidence and a reality of where we are and what we're becoming. But it isn't a consolation in terms of points. So of course we need to take those. We want those points to come alongside performances like the ones that we've given. But let's be honest, we'll take the points however they come. So we know how hard it is to win in this league. We know how hard it is to take points. But at 23 games, 26 points, I think we're in a decent spot for where we've been, and the progress that we've made, and some of the challenges that we've had to have so far in terms of the stretch of the squad at times, and the injuries that we've had certainly in the defensive unit of the team. I think we've dealt with it really well, and I think there's a real optimism and confidence going into the second half of the season. We know how tough that's going to be. It's not going to be any easier than the first half, but we're making really good progress, and I think that's important. So we're all fairly calm, we're all fairly confident, and really looking forward to the challenges that we've got coming up. None more so than the next few games that potentially going to be excellent atmospheres to play in.
Thanks, Mark. That's all from me.
Hi, Mark. Just to pick up on that point, you're obviously at the halfway point of the season in 17th place. Are you happy with that position? Would you have taken that perhaps at the start of the season, being in 17th?
Look, the position doesn't bother me one bit. It's about points. Positions will just look after themselves in time. One thing we did really well last year was we never got wrapped up in the position that we were in, because the points dictate the positions you're in, obviously. It's so close at the moment. There's a little bit of a spread on number of games. Whether we move up or down, it's sort of irrelevant. The cushion to the bottom 4 is always an interesting number. But in the end, if we do what we've got to do, it will become irrelevant what anyone else does. So our focus is always on our little blocks of games, the number of points that we take from them, and if we're on the progress for where we be. And to be honest, we are bang on track for where we would need to be, but we're probably a little bit behind where we want to be, because I think the games that we've had probably have deserved a few more points than we've taken so far. Look at the Wigan game and think we should never not win that game. We look at the Sheffield Wednesday game we're ahead in. We look at the Crewe game. Yeah, we scored a really late goal, but we were the dominant team in that game, and we should have taken more from the game. We shouldn't have lost the game against Sunderland at home. There was nothing in the game, and so on. The last 2 games against Rotherham, but certainly the home game, we shouldn't have been on the losing team in that game. So I think there's lots of games that you look at and think, you know what, we're not far away. We've got to add those little bits to it, but league position doesn't really bother me at all. It's not a number I look at the moment. I think it will become towards the end, but points between us and everybody else, and more importantly, I just think progress that we're making. We know that we're on track for a successful season for us, but we want to push to be better in the second half than we were in the first.
Yeah, and looking back on 2021 as well, I imagine you look back on this year in general with a lot of pride, given the promotion and how you've established yourself.
Yeah, this is the last time we can talk about promotion, isn't it? That's devastating. We've been able to beat that drum for months. Yeah, it starts afresh in a couple of days' time, but it has been calendar year, I guess. You can say it's been real good progress, I think, across the whole club. Always driven by the team on the pitch, no doubt that the players have been magnificent. So, yeah, we're making really good progress, but I think one of the things about us is we're not for standing still, really. We want to try and keep moving on and developing and pushing forward. So there's a whole host of areas across the club that we're really ambitious with, and we want to try and improve. And we want the club to try and grow and the team to grow in tandem with each other at the same time and successfully. So that's probably our motivation going ahead. And I've said this many times, success this season will look very different to last season, but at the same time, we can still keep the momentum and we can still keep the enthusiasm in the club. We've got a brilliant connection with our supporters. The supporter base is growing. That's really important to us because we can't grow as a club without more natural resource, and that means increasing attendances. And the way we do that is by putting a team on the pitch that's playing at the best level possible and being competitive. So, yes, we've had a good year, but I'm not really one for looking backwards. I think the thing for us is now the next thing in front of our face is the big game on Monday, and then beyond that, another 12 months of every emotion you can imagine, because that's what it is. But we're in a good place at the moment, and we have to keep our foot on the pedal.
Can I ask a bit more about the COVID situation? Obviously, you said earlier in the week that it was 6 or 7 COVID-related issues that you had. Did that remain constant? You didn't have any more than that?
No fresh cases since we then spoke, which is good actually. I think the fact that we were able to obviously have a few protocols here, have a bit of a shutdown and a few days away, I think that was quite important. And then the third thing is it just sharpens everybody up to try and make sure that they take individual responsibility to stay away from each other and be really careful who and how many people you mix with away from here. But I think in general, that's a real challenge, because there are no restrictions in daily life, really. Life's just going on. So it's really difficult. And obviously this virus is spreading quicker than at any point so far. So I don't think it's over. I think that's just a reality, and we have to just try and do the best we can to look after ourselves and each other to stay fit. But it feels and looks like it could go on for a little bit of time. So we spoke yesterday to the players about just having that adaptability and being able to roll with whatever comes, because I think postponements of games will lessen, even though cases might continue. I wonder if there'll be a shift in the rules of how you can cancel games and when you can, because of the obvious problems ahead of fixture scheduling if it continues. So it's an interesting period ahead, but one I think you just got to get on with, and we've done that well so far. So we'll just crack on.
Did you manage to get a full week of training in this week?
Yeah, I mean, we've never stopped really. We had for the first time ever Christmas Day, Boxing Day off, and then we've kept on a pretty normal schedule. So we haven't stopped in terms of training. I think we've had a really full training week, and actually more sessions than we've had for ages, but not everyone's taken part in all those sessions. So we have had a full training program, but not every player's had a full training program.
And at this point, how many players do you think you have available for Monday?
I have no idea. Enough to play.
No worries. Wanted to ask about Connor Masterson as well, because his loan spells up on Monday. Have you got any update to share on him at all as to whether that might be extended?
No, not really. I mean, we're obviously busy at the moment because January's around the corner, and we're in a little bit of a almost priority of the last week has been getting through this situation and working out where we are game to game. So that'll be a conversation that we'll have next week. Later today, probably myself and Ben will meet and catch up on January, and then we'll see where we are going into next week. So again, similar to other sort of contract news and transfer news, that'll be one that I think once we get post Portsmouth, we'll be in a better position to update on.
No worries. I'll wait till then. Cheers.
Thank you.
Mark, I remember you saying that you weren't aware that you hadn't won at Portsmouth before when you went down there earlier on in the season, and the fans were just absolutely ecstatic about it. In fact, as were we when we were commentating on it. Does that sort of thing really mean anything to you anymore, or is it just about points on a game?
No, it doesn't really, I'll be honest. The records and all those things are just, I think if you just do your job well and you're a good side, you'll just tick off loads of those sort of things along the way. You know, the things like the bogey teams or the team that you haven't beat for 40 years, even though you've only played them once in that 40 years, those sort of stats don't really sort of mean anything to me at all. So we just take every game on as it is, thinking we can be competitive in all of them. Look, as a supporter and a fan, you want all the little records to go your way. Anything that is positive news for your club, you take it and you grab it and you probably make it bigger than it is, because who doesn't like good news about things? And we've had plenty of that in the last year. I think one of the things we spoke about 18 months ago when we started this was, let's become a team that writes its own little bits of history, creates memories for supporters, and is a team that when you look back and in years to come, someone writes another great book about the club, 100 Things I Love About Cambridge, people talk about this team. because I think that's what it's about. You want to be a team that people remember. You want to be a group of people, manager, coaching staff, that people look back at and think what they achieved was brilliant. I felt really connected to that team, or that was the team that got me hooked as being a Cambridge fan for all the younger ones. And I see that all the time. I see more and more young fans come in, see more and more young people coming to games home and away. And then you see the loyal band of fans that have been there for 50 years. It's brilliant. And that's the spread of what a football club can be. So we want to continue being that, really. Yeah, we'll knock some records off along the way. But in the end, it's about, it is the boring stuff of just win games and let the stories look after themselves.
This may possibly be redundant, but I don't know whether you know this. The only other game against Portsmouth you have won was back in, believe it or not, March 1978. Steve Fallon volley, winning the game 1-0. Pompey were at the bottom of the old Div 3.
Fantastic. I'm sure Steve Fallon is delighted with that goal, and anyone that watched that game was, but I don't think it will have much bearing on our one.
I didn't think it would after the answer to the other question, but as you say, I mean, this that's what it's about. It's about making your own history and making your own records.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've had lots of those in the last sort of calendar year or even before that, whether it's individual games, cup games, promotions, records in terms of individual records, monthly awards for people. All those sorts of things are just a good things to be able to look back on, and we have to keep going. We want to keep breaking records and creating moments and days that are really memorable. You know, we've got the Newcastle game coming up. That's one of those. It's those sorts of days that you want to try and create and get the most of. But fundamentally, the bread and butter for us is play your next game and try and win it.
Thank you, Mark. Best of luck on Monday.
Thanks.
Sorry, Mark, one more from me. What do you expect from Portsmouth on Monday?
Well, I think that's quite tough in terms of knowing the team lineup. They've not played for a long time, longer than us because of the games that have been cancelled. But if you look at the previous run of games that they've played in, incredibly difficult to score against. They've got brilliant clean sheet record, and they've ground out some brilliant results, and they're playing well. So if they go in the same sort of style that they've been playing, we know how hard it will be. I think any game against a team that Danny and Nicky take is always really tough. I think they're top coaches, managers at this level, and it'll be a real challenge for us. I think the atmosphere in the game will be brilliant, and that will spur everybody on. The fact that we haven't played for so long, I think our supporters will be desperate to get to the game and to enjoy it. And what you don't know is whether that break for both teams has helped or not, and whether you can pick up where you left off in terms of that momentum. That will be our challenge, to try and hit the intensity that we'll need to do to win the game. But we'll have to play well against a team that are defending brilliantly and have got multiple ways of scoring goals. They've got lively, different options in their front two, really, but they've got a lively front two that can cause you a problem. And at the minute, Marcus Harness, who's playing behind the front two at the moment, is statistically very good in terms of goals scored and assists and chances created. So they've got a little bit of everything in the team. I think they'll be delighted with the form that they're in, and it'll be a tough afternoon for us. I'm looking forward to it.
Great, thank you.
Donny?
The only question I was going to ask is about the EFL's decision to stop testing on match days. Do you think that will help?
Well, it will help get games on. Whether it will help stop the spread of a virus is to be seen. The pressure is to stop the late call-offs, which is completely understandable, which is why I said the early call-offs for us was so helpful, because even the small things like fans travelling and spending money getting to games and wasting time doing it, you don't want that. But football clubs ordering in thousands of pounds worth of food that end up going to waste, like those sorts of things matter. And therefore you don't want those late cancellations. So that will stop that from happening. The fact that we are testing every day in the build up to match day should help. And the caveat to that is anyone who's symptomatic on match day must still test. So in a way, you hope that that is enough to keep things under control, to stop the late cancellations, and allow people to know that once they get past Friday, they're going to get Saturday. And that's important. The only thing from our side is you could have one or two dropouts late on in the day because of the symptomatic situation. And that will be one to see.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.